swapping out of the paper dollar bill for a hard coin. A government report finds the move could save taxpayers nearly $4.5 billion over 30 years. But on the flip side of that coin is now the time for a return of a gold-backed dollar as legal tender. Well, let's talk about this. We have Sean Fieler, the chairman of the American Principles Project. You know, Sean, I can never understand why, first of all, gold coins, which really circulate throughout the economy, but it's sort of like contraband. They're not regarded as legal tender, and I think they should be.
Well, that's certainly the constitutional solution, Larry. You know, the states have the right to use gold and silver coin as legal tender, and federal tax law currently prohibits them from doing it. So Utah's gone ahead and passed this legislation, and we're waiting really for the Secretary of the Treasury to allow them to implement it.
I mean, if you went to a silver or an aluminum dollar, I mean, it's sort of interesting, this whole story, what they're going to put into the dollar. Steel, aluminum, and zinc. They're going to make that into the dollar. So if you had a dollar with steel, aluminum, and zinc, and you had a dollar that was gold, which would do better in the marketplace, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, you know, whenever people have been allowed to choose, they choose gold rather than fiat or some other kind of money. You know, the composition of the actual coinage is just a sign of the debasement of the money that we've endured over the last 4 decades.
I mean, aren't there a lot of gold coins circulating now? I mean, they're not legal tender. I understand that. You can't give them to the McDonald's. You can't give them for a cash register. But aren't there just thousands and thousands of gold coins that are out there? People are collecting them, but they're not just antiques. They're investments.
Yeah, look, people are not going to use gold coins as any kind of currency in the American society. It's going to be used electronically. And I think the larger point about legalizing the use of gold as money is it provides competition to the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is in desperate need of competition. If they had a little competition instead of only statutory constraint, maybe they wouldn't be debasing the dollar as they have been.
Well, isn't that the key point?
That's
they
the key point.
They want to provide competition to what the Federal Reserve is producing. And, of course, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and the Comptroller of the Currency and all the rest of those guys, Sean, they don't want that competition because the money that the Fed is printing is lousy, soft, unreliable money.
Yeah, look, that's exactly right. They have a couple of problems. The first problem is Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution gives states this right. The second problem is that the American public is catching on to what this monetary debasement is doing. You know, who is it helping? It's obviously not helping the middle class. I suppose it's helping the moneyed class, but that can't be our policy. And it may be helping the federal government finance all these transfer payments. But we need to have really a larger discussion about the underlying principles of our monetary system because the current system we have isn't working.
All right, we had a lot of interviews with Ron Paul during his presidential run. We talked quite a bit about gold, and as I think he knows, and I think you know, I'm awfully sympathetic to that. What do you make of getting rid of the dollar bill? Do you care about that?
You mean for a coin?
Yeah, just because it's too expensive to print.
That doesn't really matter. I mean, look, the bigger question, we have a lot bigger fish to fry than whether or not we use a dollar bill or a coin for a $1 note. The bigger problem is the debasement that represents. You know, the dollar's down over the last 4 decades. Since we went off gold in August of '71, we're down 82%. You know, and to what end, right? Is it helping us with respect to employment? Obviously not. Employment ratios are down. Is it helping our financial system? You know, no. I mean, the big 3 banks are in a world of trouble. They all 3 trade at less than book. So what exactly are we getting out of all of this monetary debasement? The one thing we're getting is runaway spending in Washington, D.C., because that's the effect of this unlimited printing machine that the Federal Reserve has.
All right, so let's put some gold into the equation. Gold as legal tender. Thanks very much to Sean Fieler.